This is NBC6 South Florida Today.
Choosing to file bankruptcy can be a very difficult choice with so many myths and misconceptions. Some people back away from filing because they're confused or embarrassed, and sometimes they really should file. But before you file, weigh all of your options. Here today with us to help us sort all of this out is attorney Timothy Kingcade with some answers for those who are dealing with devastating debt and really need some options. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Let me ask you this. Who should file bankruptcy? When is it, something that somebody should really consider?
Well, there's two things you should think about. If creditors are suing you in court, if your wages are being garnished, that's obviously an emergency situation. Bankruptcy is critical at that point to preserve your family's finances. Another situation that people should think about bankruptcy is, I tell people it's a quality of life decision. If you're getting a lot of phone calls from creditors, if you're losing sleep, if you're fighting with your spouse, bankruptcy is designed to help.
Go to an attorney and have this process, initiated.
Our oldest bankruptcy judge in South Florida has an interesting saying. He says, don't walk into an operating room without a surgeon, don't walk into court without an attorney. Most bankruptcy attorneys offer free consultations in South Florida, and I strongly recommend that even if you want to file a loan, see an attorney for a consultation to determine if it's right for you and to get some ideas.
Now, let me ask you this. Now, last year we had sweeping changes in the bankruptcy laws, and it sounded as though a lot of people wouldn't even be, it wouldn't be something they could do because they no longer qualified. Is that the case?
Well, the new bankruptcy law took effect October 17th, 2005. It was 2 years ago yesterday, and that's a great point, Trina. The myth out there is that bankruptcy doesn't exist anymore, and initially when the bankruptcy laws were passed, the Congress anticipated that about 15% of the people that needed to file would be affected. Those statistics have been, in fact, revised. 5 to 10% of the people who need to file bankruptcy are affected by the new law. That doesn't mean they don't qualify. That means that we have to scrutinize their expenses before we can file their case.
Now, I understand that, for example, if you do file bankruptcy, your debt is forgiven in some cases.
There are two types of bankruptcy. Very good point. Chapter 7 is the type of bankruptcy that we prefer our clients to go through. That's the type of bankruptcy you're relieved from all of your debts, save student loans, drunk driving, child support, certain IRS debts. But you do wipe out all of the credit card debts, all of the medical bills. Chapter 13, on the other hand, is the type of bankruptcy where you enter into a repayment plan. The new bankruptcy law was designed to push people into the repayment plan type of bankruptcy. But unfortunately for the credit card industry, who really pushed these changes, the law changes were not as strong as they propagandized, and most people still qualify for Chapter 7.
Now, but there are some repercussions in filing bankruptcy. We shouldn't let people think that, okay, if you're in trouble with your debt, then just, file bankruptcy and get out of it.
Very good point. However, most people who come to see me don't have that attitude. That's another myth. People who file bankruptcy are usually very traumatized by it. They're upset. They're crying. The repercussions of bankruptcy is that it will be on your credit report for 10 years. But remember, after bankruptcy, the credit card companies who get most people into the bankruptcy problem give you brand new credit cards. It's a rather bizarre landscape.
Yeah, well, we can't totally blame the credit card companies, because people spend and use the products. So
there's no doubt.
There's got to be some,
There's no doubt. People need to be responsible for their own actions. But my point in being here today is that if you're in trouble, if the credit cards are calling, if you're having marital problems because of financial pressures, think about bankruptcy. It still works.
Is there any short, stopgap prior to bankruptcy? Because that is a pretty serious step that people should do before they go to bankruptcy.
No doubt. Try credit counseling. If you run through the internet, credit counseling, there's some really good nationwide credit counselors out there. Try it. Look at the formula. The standard formula for credit card counseling is 2.5% per month of the outstanding debt. So if you had $100,000 in credit card debt, your payment would be $2,500 per month. Note also that with credit counseling, you cannot put medical bills or other types of debts. For instance, if your car's been repossessed and you still owe the bank money, those types of debts don't go into credit counseling.
You know what I always wondered, for example, okay, if you're filing bankruptcy obviously you're in financial trouble. So how do you get paid?
Well, most bankruptcy lawyers are rather cheap. An average bankruptcy is $1,000 to $1,500. Most bankruptcy attorneys have to take payments. We do take payments. The federal law contemplates that. For instance, if you hired me today for a bankruptcy, we would contact all of your credit card companies right away. Once you hire an attorney, they can't call you anymore. So you get a little bit of relief just by hiring the lawyer. And the most bankruptcies are filed 3 to 4 months later after the clients pay off the fees. Again, it's much cheaper than you think. Many people are intimidated by going to see a lawyer. They think it's going to be expensive, but bankruptcy is a rather cheap and simple procedure. In fact, in Chapter 7, very, very rarely do the clients even have to see the judge. The attorney does that for them.
Wow, fascinating. Well, thank you so much, and I hope you provided some good information for folks who might be in trouble and on the verge of bankruptcy. For more information on bankruptcy, you can call Timothy at Kingcade and Garcia Attorneys. They're located at 305-285-9100, and they're in Miami, so give them a call if you need their help. Bob, over to you.
From making a deck of